Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live event with Congressman Sri Tanadar. We'll be taking questions from constituents like you. To ask a question, please press star 3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. You can also sign up for our newsletter by pressing star 6 at any time during this call. Again, to ask a question, please press star 3. And to subscribe to the Congressman's e-newsletter, please press star 6. And with that, I'll turn it over to Congressman Tanadar. Congressman, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us this evening. Uh, I am in Washington, D.C. In my office. We had a productive session in United States Congress, but I'm excited. I'm excited to hear from you, excited to listen to your questions and comments. So here we go. This, I believe, is about our 11th or 12th Delhi Town Hall, and I love reaching out because this makes it easy for all of you reaching and dialing in from the comfort of your home. So thank you for joining me on this Delhi Town Hall. Today we gather here remotely with some special guests uh, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And we're going to discuss about um, uh, affordable housing. Affordable housing is an important issue for many of you. Many times when I'm in the district talking to you all, you mention about housing and access to affordable housing, and that is a huge issue in our district. But before we jump on to that issue, I want to highlight some legislative success that we have had here. We passed a bipartisan tax bill, a child tax credit. Now, what that does is it adjusts yearly for inflation, and it helps nearly 16 million children in the first year alone, including 82,000 children in our district, Michigan's 13th district. It will also increase tax relief during the post-natural disaster period and increase the low-income tax credit. So I'm really excited. This is really going to help with uh, minimizing, lowering child poverty rates, is going to help working families, and it's going to help our children. Very, very exciting. The bill is not perfect, but it's a good start. And this is how Congress should be working. You want us to work. The two parties need to work together to make people's lives better. And that's what you sent us here for. And that's what we need to be working on. Sometimes there is a lot of political fighting, and that doesn't help people. But I'm really particularly proud about this bill and what we achieved bipartisan together. So I'm happy to report that to you. So again, when I talk to you all, cost of housing is an issue. Look, when I first moved to this country as an immigrant, I arrived with $20 in my pocket. I lived a life where I was unsure where my next meal is going to come from. I was worried about having a roof over my head. I was a teaching assistant during my first years here, and I experienced poverty and homelessness. I was making $300 a month, and I would send $75 home so my mother could put food on the table. At one point, I saved enough to buy a car for $200. And, often it ended up that when I couldn't afford to my apartment, I ended up sleeping in my car. And when it got too hot in the car, I would go sleep in the public building, take my little sleeping bag and go sleep there. So I understand the struggles. I understand the struggles people have. And look, having a roof over your head, no one should have to be homeless in this country of ours. We are an affluent country, and there is no reason anyone not have a roof over that, especially our veterans who gave so much for our peace and our safety, to see that huge rate of homelessness among veterans bothers me. And there's a lot that we are doing here in Washington, D.C. to minimize homelessness rate across the country. And certainly, we want to see fewer and fewer homeless veterans because we owe it to them. We owe it to them for the services that they need and they deserve. And that's why I'm hard at work in Washington to support these programs on a national scale. And that's why I co-sponsored Rent Relief Act of 2023, which would provide a tax credit to people spending over 30% of their income on paying their rent. This bill would also put money back in the pockets of working people and making living in your community more affordable. I also co-sponsored the Affordable Housing Credit Act. This bill, when it comes to effect, it would increase the amount allocated for housing-related tax credits. It would also increase these credits in relation to level of inflation. We got to keep up with the inflation. These two bills are just a small sample of the work that is being done in Washington and in Michigan to help make rent lower rents and housing more affordable for everyone. In our district, there are a number of programs designed to assist our residents and neighbors with keeping a roof over their head. And that's why I have brought these distinguished members of our community to this town hall. We have two experts to share with us the resources that are available to help in the same way I was helped when I was homeless and I struggled with poverty. Each of these legislative efforts is a step towards improving the lives of people in our district and solving the problems that affect the people in Detroit and around Detroit in our 13th congressional district. Your support in these endeavors is invaluable, and together we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure every person has a roof over their head and a warm bed to sleep in at night. Thank you for your continued support and engagement. I would now like to turn it over to our special guest from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, James Cunningham, HUD Deputy Regional Administrator, and HUD's Regional Administrator from Detroit Field Office Director, Michael Polinelli. So I'm going to invite Mr. Cunningham and Mr. Polsinelli to come and help us understand what resources are available for people to making sure people have affordable housing.
Great. Thank you, Representative Tanadar. Again, my name is Jim Cunningham. I am the Deputy Regional Administrator for HUD. So we cover 6 states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and of course, the great state of Michigan. On behalf of our HUD Secretary, Marcia Fudge, and our Regional Administrator, Diane Shelley, who regrets not being able to be here. She was actually in Detroit the last couple of days conducting the point in time count to help us assist our most vulnerable populations, and those are those experiencing homelessness, and making sure that we can, as the representative said, bring resources to bear to end the homeless crisis and put a roof over everyone's head. I'm going to give a high-level overview of kind of what we do at HUD, and then I'm going to turn it over to our field office director to talk about how that looks locally in Detroit area and in the state of Michigan. HUD provides a lot of programs, both on the rental side and on the homeownership side. So we have, our primary role is to be a funder. Congress gives us, thank you, Representative, and your colleagues, they give us a budget and to carry out authorized programs, whether it's rental assistance through our multifamily Section 8 program, through our public housing programs, through housing commissions that either are traditional public housing units or housing choice voucher programs. We also have assist private landlords to help them assist in their rent. We also have community development programs that go to state and local governments that help them develop affordable housing. They often augment, as the Congressman mentioned, the tax credit program. We help assist and build those affordable housing units. We do provide assistance to help those experiencing homelessness with a goal towards ending homelessness as we know it. But we also try to bring down the cost for home ownership. We know that there are historically high gaps between Black and white and people of color home ownership rates. We're trying to break those down to make sure it is equitable. Through our FHA mortgage program, we provide low down payment and offer other incentives to make home ownership a reality as well. So we're trying to address both housing affordability on the rental side to make sure that everyone can afford their rent. We know it's a struggle, and we're trying to increase the supply of affordable housing, but also make sure that rental assistance is decent, safe, and sanitary, and that we can assist more people with the resources that we have. And then making sure that people have access to affordable home ownership. So we provide funding to, again, either housing authorities, some private landlords, state and local governments, and they implement the program. So HUD doesn't administer directly. So I'm going to turn it over to our field office director, Mike Polsinelli, to talk about how those programs kind of look and feel on the ground in the great state of Michigan. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Congressman. And this town hall is actually very timely. As Jim Cunningham had mentioned, we just did the point in time count last night in the city of Detroit. I actually volunteered along with our regional administrator, Diane Shelley, who's on her way back to Chicago, as Jim noted. We also had some high-level principals from our headquarters office in Washington, D.C., who came in to also volunteer with the pit count. And it's very important because when we count the number of unsheltered homeless on any given night, usually it's at the end of January that we do this. This helps to help HUD decide the amount of money that each jurisdiction should receive to help combat homelessness. And it tied in nicely because yesterday it was announced that the city of Detroit was receiving, through its continuum of care, which is organizations who work together to fight homelessness in the city, $35 million this year. Thanks to all of you in Congress for approving our budget. It's actually $3 million more than the Detroit Continuum received last year. We have found, unfortunately, since the end of COVID and the end of the COVID, the COVID restrictions, when they went away and the help has dwindled, that we found homelessness increase in the city of Detroit by about 12% year over year. We had a meeting with the mayor today, and they were very happy to point out from the city's Office of Housing and Revitalization, one good thing is that we're very close to having functional zero homelessness for veterans in the city of Detroit. And if we're able to reach that milestone in the next couple of months, we would be the largest city in the country to actually hit functional zero for veterans homelessness. So Detroit deserves a pat on the back for that. Locally, I just want to point out a few things. We're here, the Detroit HUD office is located in downtown Detroit at 477 Michigan Avenue in the McNamara Federal Building. And we are open to the public 5 days a week, 9 o'clock a.m. to 4 o'clock p.m. If anybody wants to come down and speak to us that needs housing resources, information on our programs, we certainly welcome you to do so. I do caution that if anybody is homeless or at risk of becoming homeless in the city of Detroit, that they contact what is called Detroit's Coordinated Assessment Model. We call it the CAM. And they will be able to connect you with housing and shelter resources. And folks can reach the CAM by dialing, and I'm going to speak this number slowly in case if anybody wants to write it down, 313 305-0311, or you can just dial 311 as well. And they will help you find the closest in-person access point where you can get some help. You could also, if you have a computer and you're looking for affordable housing, there is a resource locator that HUD has online, and you can access that by going to resources.hud.gov.gov. That provides contact information for agencies and developments offering income-based and affordable housing. And also, I do want to point out that the City of Detroit also has an affordable housing resource called Detroit Home Connect. And this site is designed to assist citizens in finding affordable housing in the City of Detroit. And you can access that by going to Home Connect, altogether, Home Connect, .detroitmi.gov. And then I just want to say, when we work locally with the City of Detroit on affordable housing, one thing we've been working with them is on the preservation of affordable housing. So what we don't want to see is current affordable housing going away if a private owner decides they no longer want to provide affordable housing. Maybe they want to go to market rent. So the city and HUD are working together to identify those properties, to reach out to those landlords, and offer them incentives to stay in the program. And that's also been very successful. We haven't lost one tax credit deal yet. Has decided to go market in the City of Detroit due to those efforts. So we do work closely with Mayor Duggan's administration. So with that, I will stop and turn it back over to you, Congressman.
Well, thank you again. Thanks to both of you and coming in this evening and giving us some very, very valuable information. So, Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Polsonelli, thank you so much for what you do at the HUD. And I'm going to open up for questions. So if anybody has questions, I'm here to answer, and we'll also have our experts are here to answer.
All right, a very quick reminder, if you do want to get involved in the question or in the conversation because you have a question, please press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. Again, please press *3 if you have a question you'd like to ask. Heading out to Detroit first, we've got Joyce joining us on the line. Hello, Joyce. Welcome to the conversation. What is your question? Hello, Joyce.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yes,
Go
we
ahead
can.
with your question now.
Yes, I was calling in regard to the AMI, and if I understand correctly, it's dealing with the area median income. If a person's making $60,000 a year, and you talk about 80% income, they might be able to afford one of your units. So if a person's making $34,000 a year, as most Detroiters are at this time, it is very difficult to call it affordable housing. So if developers are coming in and using their own numbers as opposed to using a defined number by HUD, which should be 30%, then you're talking about helping people in affordable housing situations. So can you go back and look at your AMI and keep it capped at 30%? I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Joyce, thank you so much. Great question. AMI does have an issue there. Currently the AMI for our area is $62,000, which is way too high because what they do is when they come up with this number, they are making an average between Detroit and Warren and Livonia, and Livonia has incomes of $80,000 household incomes, and Warren has $50,000, while Detroit's average income is $30,000. So one of the things that I'm working with the HUD secretary is to recompute this AMI so more people will be eligible for housing. And stay tuned because I don't think the AMI currently calculated is the right way to do it. And I'm working very hard with the HUD secretary to fix that.
All right, moving on. We've got Pete up next from Detroit. Pete, you're live with Congressman Tanadar. What's your question?
Detroit has about 60 vacant, unused school buildings. Can we use the school buildings for senior housing and veterans housing? And by reusing the building, it reduces the construction cost for that project. Can we get
Yes,
additional
absolutely.
HUD funds for school reuse program?
Pete, we do.
So
We do. And yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Congressman. So that, you know what? I love that question, and I love the idea of using existing, sometimes historical buildings and putting them back to life in adaptive reuse as affordable senior housing. I have not seen that done in the city of Detroit. I have seen it done in the city of Flint with HUD money. We have a program called the Section 202 program, and it's a competitive grant program that nonprofits can apply for. And in the case of Flint, the developer got the award, was able to purchase from the city an old school called the Oak Street School that was built in the late 1800s. Had been vacant for probably 20 plus years, was in pretty rough shape, but the developer was able to use those funds to restore the building, create beautiful senior housing. And when I went to the ribbon cutting, it was great to see that some of the folks moving in had actually attended to that school when they were children. But that's in Flint, so there is a model to do it. I'd love to see it done in Detroit. The problem becomes who owns those school buildings? Is it the Detroit Public School System? Is it someone else? Are they willing to sell them to a developer for that purpose? And also to get developers interested in doing that type of housing and taking these buildings and putting them back into use again instead of tearing them down. I totally agree. And if there's a developer out there, a nonprofit out there, a school that they have designated or want to target, we're certainly happy to talk to folks to see if there's any HUD programs that can assist in doing so. I think it's a great model.
Moving on to our next question. Looks like we've got Stefan in Detroit joining us. Stefan, welcome. What's your question?
My question is, what can we do for small-time investors to help them be able to afford to provide, affordable housing? And the example is the insurance rates in Detroit, Michigan are extremely high. It's hard to break even by means of providing affordable housing.
Stefan, thank you. That's a great question. This is Congressman Sri Thanedar. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to ask the experts at HUD in terms of how we can do that. That's a very, very good question.
So can you go ahead, Jim.
I think we do. There's a lot of incentives that we try to do. We encourage landlords to participate through the Housing Choice Voucher Program. That is a means whereby people that are income eligible that need housing can participate, and it's a guaranteed income stream. The tenants pay 30% of their income for rent, and a housing commission will actually make up the difference. We also are looking to, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, there's a lot of action to try to increase the affordable housing supply. The recent tax bill that was passed by the House re-ups the low-income housing tax credit, so there's incentives to fund that, but also local governments get what we call home investment partnership dollars that can renovate or build housing from 0 to however many units, and they can assist in that. So I think it's making sure that those funds are available, and I'm sure, Mike, if you want to add on, there's ways to access those funds through the local governments and through the state of Michigan through MISHDA. So I think that there's those two programs. So there's the development side, but there's also just participating in the Housing Choice Voucher Program as a landlord that allows you to have operating income to continue to maintain your properties, guaranteed source of income, and it also helps people out that are looking for housing.
Hearing nothing further, let's go ahead and move on. But before I do that, I want to remind everyone that the Congressman and his staff put out a very informative e-newsletter, and you can get enrolled in that by simply pressing *6 right now on your telephone keypad. Again, stay connected with Congressman Tanadar by joining his e-newsletter by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. We're off to Southgate. We've got Janie, it looks like, on the line with us. Janie, you are live with Congressman Tanadar. What's your question?
Thank you, Congressman, for taking my question. I talked to you last week in Washington, D.C. at the UAW conference, and expressed my concerns about housing for our artistic community of people with special needs. There's a great lack of that here and in our area, and it's very frightening, not only for me, but for hundreds of families that are in the same situation as far as housing, long-term housing goes for our children. Could you address that, please?
Yes, and thank you for joining, Jenny. Thanks. It was good seeing you. And I'm going to go take advantage of our experts from HUD today here, have them address that issue.
Do you want to take it, Jim, or do you want me to?
I can start, and if I miss anything. So we do also have a program, and just make sure that I understood the question. It was autistic, or was it artistic? Autistic families?
Autistic. Yeah,
Okay.
people with disability.
Okay, so we have a program called the Section 811, which is housing for persons with disabilities. That is also it's very similar to the 202 program. A lot of it has gone to rental assistance to state housing finance agencies. So it's, again, working typically through the low-income housing tax credit program and MISHDA in the state of Michigan to get those resources. We also are very mindful of trying to have the most inclusive environment or open environment for these folks that are that have disabilities. But that program actually serves the same purposes, where people pay 30% of their income for rent, but it is specifically designed for persons with disabilities, and there's usually an application period where people can apply to HUD.
All right, moving on. Looks like we've got up next Shelley in Detroit. Shelley, welcome to the call. Actually, Annie, would you mind bringing Shelley live? I'm having a little trouble with my console. Thank you very much, Shelley. I see that you're live now with us. Welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am. You are live on the call. What's on your mind?
I'm understanding you saying you want to put us to keep from being homeless with a roof over our head and everything like that. But what about the low income that has a home but can't afford to repair it with the heat and stuff? Like I'm living off using the stove right now.
Yes, and thank you, Shelley. Yeah. Thank you, Shelley.
Do you want me to take that, Congressman?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't know if you had anything else to add. So to follow up, as Jim Cunningham was saying, you know, our funding that flows from Washington to the local communities. So in this case, HUD provides funding to the city of Detroit, and then the city of Detroit comes up with programs to assist its residents with home repair. And the city does have, through its Department of Housing and Revitalization, 2 programs to assist residents, low-income residents with needed repairs. And this could be things such as roofs, windows, weatherproofing, lead removal. It depends on what you need, and you really need to contact the city's Department of Housing and Revitalization. But I can say, if you're a senior, they do have a grant program where you apply and you don't have to pay the funds back. You get the funds to repair your house. They help you find a contractor to do the work, and they monitor that. If you don't qualify for a grant, they do have the 0% home improvement loan program, also funded with HUD money, where you can get a 0% loan to make needed repairs to your house. Unfortunately, you can't apply through HUD for any of these. You have to apply through the city. But the city does receive HUD money for this purpose to assist its residents.
Yes, and then reach out to my office. We are open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We are in downtown Detroit at 400 Monroe Street. I have caseworkers there. You could reach us from your home online, tanadar.house.gov. That's my website, Tanadar. That's my last name. .house.gov. So reach out through our website, or you can call our office. In Detroit at 313-880-2400. So we'll be able to walk you through. My caseworkers are very experienced, and they'll connect you with the city resources. That way you don't have to try to find where to go. Just come to call us and we'll guide you through that. Tanadar.house.gov. If you get on the website, there are forms that you can quickly fill out, and my caseworkers can get to you within 24 to 48 hours. Tanadar.house.gov.
All right, our next question, we've got Diane from Romulus on the line with us. Diane, welcome to the call. What's your question?
Hi. You guys are talking a lot about the city of Detroit and affordable housing. What about outside of Detroit? There isn't a lot of Section 8 housing available. I had a very hard time finding where I'm at now, and trying to move is almost impossible.
Go ahead, Mr. Cunningham, if you want to take that on.
I can take it, Jim, actually.
Yeah, I was going to,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to defer to Mike because it's more of a local question.
Sure.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
that's a very good question, and I often say sometimes we tend to be very Detroit centric, but yes, we do recognize that outside of the city of Detroit there is a need for quality, affordable housing, and there's a shortage of it. If you are looking for affordable housing and you want to move, I would love you to contact our office, because what we can do is we actually will ask what area you're interested in. And I have staff that actually can pull affordable housing developments in the area you're looking for that are currently showing vacancy. So you know which developments have vacant units. Some don't. Let's face it, some are full. But there are developments that do have vacancies as they report it into the system, and then we're able to give that to you in real time, so you can then call and put your name in for a unit that's showing as vacant. So if you want to get a hold of the local HUD office, I'm going to give you our number. It's 313-226-7900, and we'll be happy to assist you.
Moving on now, we've got Brenda joining us from Detroit. Brenda, you're live on the call. Go ahead with your question for Congressman Tanadar.
Hi, how you doing? Good afternoon, everyone. I mean, evening, everyone. Y'all kind of answered the question already, because I was calling about the home repair too, because I own my home, and my home is 102 years old, and I have went through a program called HOPE, but the city have ran out, because I had applied for the $25,000 grant to do the repair on my home, but the city had ran out of money.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. And when I was in the State House, we brought about $15 million for home repairs. We do have, city has some grants available. Reach out to our office, tanadar.house.gov, and my caseworkers can help you.
All right, looks like we've got another Brenda joining us, also from Detroit. Brenda number 2, you are live. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hello. I'm wondering, when we go to Section 8 back here in this city, and because I live in an apartment building that was government subsidized, but now it's no longer government subsidized. I'm on the town hall call, and it's no longer government subsidized. And I'm taking care of my 90-year-old mother, and and I'm paying $900 right now, but every time you look around, they're going up, and on the rent, and they're trying to push all us low income people out of here. You know, they're whereas if apartment that at one time rented for $7.95, the next resident moved in, she's paying $12.75. You know, and I'm across the street from Belle Isle Park, so I'm in the district where they're pushing into the city, and I just want to get on Section 8 to make it easier, because they do accept Section 8 in my building, but I need you know, I don't want to move with my 90-year-old mother. So
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Brenda. We're trying to
I've
bring
been trying
more.
for 3 years.
So, ma'am, this is Mike Postinelli with the HUD office in Detroit. So, did you apply through the Detroit Housing Commission and get on their waiting list, and you're currently on the waiting list? Is that what you're saying for a voucher?
They won't even let me apply.
Why? Because the waiting list is not...
I went over on Orleans to apply. I tried to apply on online. They're not taking any applications, period.
Okay, so their waiting list is not open in Detroit, so that's what that means. And you said that currently you're taking care of your mother. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, because it'd be horrible. You know, it'd be a bad thing to try to move my mother, 90 years old.
Okay.
You know.
So I suggest, like the congressman said, if you reach out to one of his caseworkers who then are very good at getting with us here at HUD, maybe there's a way we can assist you based on, you know, I'm not going to ask you your age, but sometimes there's housing subsidy that's available based on a specific trait such as age, disability, certain other things that can help you get housing assistance quicker than just going on a general waiting list when those waiting lists are open. So if you reach out to one of his caseworkers, who I work with almost daily, they're very, very good at working on behalf of the congressman's constituents to get answers from HUD. Maybe there's something we can do to assist you with that.
Yes, Brenda, reach out to us, tanadar.house.gov. You know, my phone number, my office is 313-880-2400. Please reach out to my office. Also get on our e-newsletter, because we often give you very useful information on our e-newsletter, and that you can do by just dial #6, and you will be able to give us your email. Somebody will take your email, and then you can be on our email list where we can get you a lot of good information.
Just very quickly, would like to make a slight modification there, Congressman. In order to get on that e-newsletter the Congressman was just talking about, please press *6. Button to press is *6, and that'll take you to someone who will get your email address, and they'll get you enrolled in the Congressman's e-newsletter. So again, that's *6 to get enrolled. And let's get back to another question. This time, Grosse Pointe Shores checking in. We've got Mark on the line with us. Hi, Mark. What's your question?
Hi. Hey, thanks so much for taking my question, and excellent presentation, and thank you, Congressman. The question I have is that with low-income housing, is there a program in place already, or has there one been sort of knocked around of combining low-income housing residents with the free community college? So therefore, the additional skills, additional income, which will then help individuals move through low-income housing and then make room for those behind them. So therefore, it's not a long-term venture, but relatively a block of time. And then it will also do, as we all know, with home ownership, will then be one of the biggest differentiators in generational wealth. And with that, I look forward to hearing your response.
Thank you, Mark. And you're the first caller from Grosse Points, and appreciate because that's also an area that I represent. Really, good point, because ultimately our goal is really to help home ownership. Ultimately, the goal it really is people be able to have generation of net worth. Create some value and net worth, and this is would go a long way. And we have programs for vouchers, we have down payment on home ownership, making home ownership more affordable and more accessible, especially in Black and brown communities. But ultimately, creating good skills, and I serve on the small business committee. So there are many bills that I've introduced, bipartisan bills, creating skills. We need to give people the skills they need to get good paying jobs, be able to start their own businesses, creating access to capital, which is a huge issue right now, and creating access to capital so that you can start your own businesses. You can start, get good paying jobs, that you can start building value, owning homes, making it easier for, low income communities, families to be able to own their own homes, because that's the best way to create some generation of net worth. And that's what we have a number of programs at the federal level. Again, reach out to my office, tanadar.house.gov.
All right, next up, we've got Gail joining us from Detroit. Hi, Gail. Welcome to the call. You're live with Congressman Tanadar.
Good evening, everybody. My question is, what do you do for the single mothers that have kids, but they do work, and it's hard for them to pay the rent because they paying anywhere from $1,400 and up, high light and gas bill, car note and the insurance is high by them living in Detroit. They babysitters, they can't miss work, they can't be late, and they have problems with the babysitter because they don't want to get up early to get them in, and then they stuck with their kids. It's just hard for single mothers, So do they have anything for working single mothers?
Yes, and affordable child care. One of the things that I am fighting for is universal child care, so that people, working families, single mothers, single fathers, are able to help and take care of their children. I have 2 grandchildren, and so understand the need of working parents to be able to take care of our children, have access to good child care, so that they can be gainfully employed and help their families. We have HUD experts on the call, and I urge them to jump in anytime during our conversation here.
Yeah, this is Mr. Cunningham. I just think that, it takes a holistic approach, and it's not one federal agency. And so one of the things that we're trying to do throughout the region and across the country is work with our federal partners, so that, kind of going back to the last question, we provide supports for folks. We're trying to increase the supply of housing so that everyone has access. We know that nationwide, of only 1 in 4 people that is eligible for housing assistance gets it. So we need to continue to strive to make sure that our programs are utilized to their fullest extent, that we're out there working with our housing partners to increase the supply of affordable housing so that working mothers can get that. But it's also working with our partners at HHS to make sure there's affordable childcare, working with the Department of Labor to make sure there's job training and job readiness. So we're working as a holistic approach to government to solve all these problems, because a home is more than just a roof over your head. It's where you live. It's how you get around. It's access to transportation. So we understand that, and we're working with our federal partners to make sure that everyone that needs assistance gets it, and that, again, as a gentleman prior said, that we can move on, that we give you access to opportunities so that you don't need it and someone else can get on the program. So we understand the plight, and we are working holistically to try to get it done so we can serve everyone.
And Ms. Gill, just to add to that, we just passed a bipartisan child tax credit, and that's going to put a little bit of dollars into the pockets of families with children. And that would also go a long way in minimizing poverty, children in poverty. This new bill that we just passed yesterday that I expect President Biden to sign into law will help about 82,000 children just in our district, just in the 13th congressional district.
Our next question comes from Southgate. Harshad Bahai, welcome to the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, I'm Mr. Patel. I got small motel in Southgate. Congressman, I met you in Wyandotte last week. But I'd like to know, I see a lot of poor people and homeless people come to the motel, and sometimes if I got a room, I might give them for free, but it's hard for fellow Americans suffering in the winter time and without any heat. I feel that should be a small funding available to them. So,
sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If I could ask you to turn your sound down in the background, it's conflicting with your question. So if you're listening with your computer speakers up or your speaker phone, I need to ask you to turn that down because we are getting a terrible echo.
hear me good?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Okay, I'm the owner of a small motel in Southgate, and I see a lot of homeless people coming to the motel, and they don't have money to stay, and it's a winter outside is like below zero or zero something, and sometimes I let them stay without even paying them, but it's hard for us to do the business without making money for poor people. But is there any emergency kind of situation somebody can contact? Hey, there are few people are homeless and outside temperature is below zero or very extremely cold, and have them somebody pay for or city pay for it for a few days, and they can find later on better place.
Mr. Polsonelli, you want to take that? Yeah.
So if I understood the question correctly, you have homeless people looking for a place to stay that show up at your motel, and were you asking for ways that you could assist them?
That's right. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
At the same time, CP or anything, we can contact, hey, there are few people are homeless and temperature is bad.
Sure.
Can somebody assist?
In Southgate, you said Southgate, correct?
Yes, he's in Southgate.
Yeah, Southgate. So in Southgate, if you find someone who is cold, needs shelter, needs help, you can call 211, and they will be able to assist that person and find that person shelter for the night and possibly even longer. But the first step is not to call 911, but 211. And that's the best way to assist those folks.
Is that a different number in Detroit?
Yeah, Detroit is 311.
Okay,
don't ask me why.
No, that's good.
All right, we've got a number of people with questions, and let's get to the next one. We've got Darren in Lincoln Park on the line with us. Darren, go ahead with your question, please.
Hey, thanks so much. My question was regarding gap funding for projects. So I know about the HUD 202 and understanding all of those. And I'm doing some work with some nonprofits in Memphis. Actually, I'm leading a couple projects down there. We've been very successful with some HUD loans. But the challenge here sometimes is the gap funding you need to make it work, like for senior housing, because the rent will not make up for the loan. And with the HUD 202 being so competitive, you just can't, you don't qualify, you got too many people bidding. So what opportunities are there to close the gap funding? Because the other part will be a standard, one of the HUD loan, conventional loans you're able to get. Does that follow my question?
Yeah, I'm following your question totally. So when I think about gap funding, oftentimes developers find gap funding through the State Housing Finance Agency, through MSHDA. MSHDA has programs that provide gap funding. Also, if you're working in an area that has a housing authority that administers vouchers, they can have project-based vouchers at the development, which helps with the funding as well. There's a number of things you can do. I suggest that if you're interested in talking about it in more detail, you can meet with some of the folks that work in our multifamily development division, and they could probably give you more concrete examples than I can off the top of my head right now. But I certainly understand the question and have seen, I used to close those types of deals. So there was all types of financing involved, trying to plug those holes where there was gap financing needed. And there's definitely tools out there, and even, using home money through the CDBG program, MSHDA funds, project-based vouchers. Those are just a few of them off the top of my head.
Next, we've got Sonia in Detroit on the line with us. Hi, Sonia. Go ahead with your question, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes. Good evening, and thank you for having me this evening. I have a question regarding the 202 and the 811 program. I have a daughter that is 21. She's autistic and would like to live independently. I would like to know if I should reach out to an organization to assist her in getting in this particular program. Thank you.
So what I would suggest you do, there's an organization called Community Housing Network. They are based out of Troy, Michigan, and they specialize in housing for persons with disabilities. They have quite the complement of different 811 properties. The Section 202 is geared for the elderly, so you'd be looking for the Section 811. But I would definitely reach out to Community Housing Network, and I don't have their phone number right now, but if you want to email me at Michael, MICHAEL, .L as in Lewis, Polsinelli, that's POLSINELLI at HUD.gov. I'd be happy to do an email introduction for you so you can talk to these folks.
And you can also reach my office, tanadar.house.gov.
And we have given out a number of contact points, including web addresses and phone numbers. So, Mr. Polsinelli, in just a moment, I'm going to come back to you to provide everyone on the call, again, those phone numbers as well as points of contact on the web. So if you wouldn't mind being prepared for that. I want to get back to more questions here. And Carolyn, I've got you in Detroit. Welcome to the call. What is your question?
Yes. Hi. Thanks for having me. I would like to know, okay, I already received Section 8. But the problem is that, wait, let me turn this down. The problem is that my Section 8 voucher is only $1,050. And the housing that I have been looking at are more than the housing voucher that I have, but it's hard to find something on Section 8 for affordable housing.
Mr. Polsinelli?
I mean, other than to say I totally agree with you. Yes, we know it's a problem as housing costs go up. Um, the payment standard on vouchers have not. What HUD has done recently, though, HUD has issued it, and Jim, you may have to help me out in explaining this, but we have increased the amount of vouchers based on information we've gotten from private landlords. And I believe in the state of Michigan, and I don't know about Detroit in particular, the increase has been, I think, 15% or so. So we are trying to work to get our payment standards higher on our Section 8 housing vouchers. Again, we're constrained by our budget in doing so. But I understand it's a problem. I wish I had a better answer for you. Jim, is there anything you wanted to add to that?
I think there's a couple things that we're trying to do to increase the value of the voucher. One, Mike mentioned that we're looking, when we do the fair market rents, is looking to alternate data sources to make sure we're truly capturing the market. But the second thing that we just rolled out again this year was the expansion of what we call the small area market fair rents, because kind of the same way that the AMI works that the congressman talked about earlier, is that we look at rents generally on a large scale, and that doesn't mean the rent in downtown Detroit is not going to be the same on the north side, the west side, or the east side. I don't know the neighborhoods as well, but they're going to be different. So we allow housing authorities to actually look at true housing markets, which can actually lead to us actually paying what the rent really should be, whether it's a higher rent in a neighborhood that warrants it, or in a little bit lower than the area fair market rent. So we're looking at tools to make sure that we allow the buying power of that voucher to accurately reflect the market in which you're looking. So we realize that it is, as Mike said, it's an issue, but I think we're looking at ways to address that, to give folks the best ability to be successful in using their vouchers. And we also give housing commissions some flexibility on what they set their payment standard on. And it's a conundrum, right? Because if we raise the payment standards, that means that's fewer people we can serve. So it's a balancing act as well.
I have to say, this has definitely been a very interesting conversation. Thank you to the experts from HUD. As promised, Mr. Polsinelli, I'm coming back to you, though, to give a couple of the phone numbers that you've previously provided, as well as web touch points for us, please.
Sure. So to reach the local HUD office here in Detroit, and we handle the entire state of Michigan, the number is 313-226-7900. You can find information about our programs and resources by going to www.hud.gov. Again, to give the number, if you need immediate housing assistance, Detroit, you dial 311, outside of Detroit, 211. And for housing resources, you can go to resources.hud.gov. And again, I'll give my email address. It's Michael, Michael, .L as in Lewis, .Polsinelli, that's POL, S as in Sam, INELLI, at HUD.gov.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And as we begin to wrap up this call, Congressman Tanadar, I'd like to call on you, sir, for some closing thoughts, please.
Well, again, thank you all for joining. When we do these teletown halls, several thousand people dial in throughout the evening, and I thank you for joining us. I really enjoyed this session. I thought it was very helpful, and I'm very, very thankful to the HUD and the two experts, Mr. Cunningham and Mr. Polsinelli, that joined us today and gave us some really valuable information. So my office, again, this is Congressman Shri Thanedar. My office will continue to bring you information. That's my job. That's what you hired me to do. And I will continue to serve you, continue to bring you resources. I see my job as bringing federal dollars to the district for housing, for roads and repairing roads and bridges and lead pipelines and flooding issues, bringing dollars to address the flooding issues. We have brought about $13 million for many community projects. We'll continue to bring more. We brought about $5 billion for infrastructure improvements in Michigan, and we'll continue to bring more. So it's very, very critical to bring federal dollars to our district to improve people's lives, improve quality of life for all of you. And please keep reaching out to me. I am at your service. I am grateful that you chose me to help you and serve you. I'm honored, I'm privileged, I'm honored, and I'm here for your service. Best way to reach me is my website, tanadar.house.gov. I thank you. I wish you a good evening, and please be safe as we have weather issues, and keep watching our websites, our social media, Facebook, and also sign up for our newsletter. We give you a lot of good information when weather issues, grants. So *6 will allow you to join our email list. So you can subscribe to our email list by just pressing *6. I love you all. God bless you, and good evening. Thank you.
So at this point in the call, if you would like to subscribe to the Congressman's e-newsletter, we have a little bit of different sequence. So if you have pressed *6, please disregard that at the moment, and just wait for the tone that you'll hear at the end of this call, and just go ahead and give us your name and email address, and please spell out your email address, and someone will get you enrolled in the Congressman's e-newsletter. Thank you again for your time today. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and have a wonderful night.